My wife secretly put our house in her name before filing for divorce. When I walked into my office, my boss said, "She sent over the deed." "Why would she do that?" I gritted my teeth, replied, "Because she thinks I'll walk away quietly." He leaned in, whispered, "Make her regret it." I never thought I'd be one of those people with a story like this. You hear about it on the news, from a friend of a friend, in hushed conversations after someone's third round of beer at a bar. But it doesn't feel real until it happens to you, until it knocks the breath out of you, leaves you standing there with your hands empty and heart heavier than you knew was possible. My name's Callum. I'm 48. Lived most of my life in Seattle. Built my career here, made my friends here, and married here. I'm not flashy. Never wanted to be. I work in commercial architecture, and while most of the time it's not glamorous, it's mine. I've spent 20-some years drawing lines that became walls, making old things new again, shaping buildings that, in their quiet way, shape people's lives. Trina was my wife. For almost 2 decades, she was my entire world. I met her on a rainy afternoon in Portland, both of us trying to cram under the same awning outside a food truck festival. She had this soaked hoodie on, water dripping off her nose, but she was laughing like it was the funniest thing that had ever happened. That laugh, it caught me off guard. It wasn't dainty or sweet. It was real, loud, deep, unfiltered. The kind of laugh people either loved or hated. I loved it. We clicked, just like that. Fell into each other without hesitation. Our relationship moved quickly but never felt rushed. Within a year, we were living together. 3 years in, we got married in a small ceremony at Discovery Park, with only close friends, family, and a border collie puppy we'd impulsively adopted. Huck was our first baby. For a while, life was everything it was supposed to be. The hard stuff, mortgages, car payments, long work hours, all seemed manageable when we were facing it together. Trina worked for various nonprofits, always chasing a cause. She was passionate, driven, the kind of woman who could convince a room to donate thousands for a youth shelter just by telling one story about a kid who reminded her of someone. I love that about her. But somewhere along the way, things shifted. It wasn't sudden. More like erosion, slow, quiet, unnoticed until you looked down and realized you were standing on cracked ground. At first, it was little things. She stopped asking me about my projects. Started coming home later. When I asked, she always had a reason. A fundraiser that went long. A board meeting. Drinks with a potential donor. I wanted to believe her. Maybe that's the part that hurts the most. I didn't even put up a fight at first. I just believed. You convince yourself that marriages go through rough patches. That stress does weird things. That people grow and shift and come back again if you're patient. And I was patient. Probably too patient. I thought we were still in sync. Still a team. Until Monday morning when I walked into my office, hung up my coat, and was called into a meeting with Arlo, my boss. Arlo's an old-timer, semi-retired but still drops by a few days a week just to stay involved. He's blunt, not one for small talk. When I walked into his office, he was holding a manila envelope. "She sent over the deed," he said without looking up. I frowned, confused. "What deed?" He opened the envelope and slid out a copy of a legal document. I recognized the address immediately. Our house in Ballard. The home we'd picked together. The place where we'd hosted Christmas dinners and buried Huck's chewed-up tennis balls in the backyard. She'd transferred the deed to her name only. Quietly. Officially. Behind my back. Arlo looked up, waiting for me to explain. I barely managed to speak. "Because she thinks I'll walk away quietly." Arlo leaned in, his eyes sharp behind thick glasses. "Make her regret it." I left the office with a pit in my stomach and a fire under my ribs. I didn't go home. I sat in my truck in the parking garage for over an hour, trying to understand. Trying to process how someone who had once cried with me over a broken dishwasher could do something so cold. She hadn't even told me she was filing. I found out through the lawyer's notification that arrived in my inbox later that afternoon. I called her. Voicemail. I drove to the house. She wasn't there. When she finally responded via text, it was short. "I'm staying somewhere else. I'll send a list of things I need." Just like that. As if it was business. And maybe to her, it was. Maybe somewhere along the line, I stopped being her partner and became an obstacle. I contacted a lawyer. Mara Ellison. She had this way of speaking that made you feel like things were going to be okay, even if they weren't. She didn't sugarcoat anything. "She's moving quickly," Mara said. "That usually means there's more happening under the surface." What do I do? We respond. We hold the line. You don't let her rewrite history. So that's what I did. Or tried to do. I spent hours digging through documents, gathering proof of what we'd built together. Pay stubs, mortgage statements, receipts for the renovations I'd stayed up nights to finish myself because we couldn't afford a contractor. Emails showing joint decisions. All the boring, gritty evidence of a life shared. But the more I dug, the more I started to question what was real. She'd changed passwords to our shared bank accounts. She'd moved large sums of money into an account with her name only. And then there were the whispers. A friend Anjali texted me one evening. "Saw Trina at the nest. Not alone." I didn't ask questions. I didn't want to know. But at the same time, I needed to. That duality tore at me until I couldn't sleep. I started going through our texts last year. I looked for signs, clues, anything. Then I hired a PI. It felt like a betrayal to do that. But what had she done to me? Why did I still care about honor when she clearly didn't? Bowen, the PI, didn't need much time. 2 weeks. He met me at a diner in Aurora. Plain manila folder. Photos inside. Her, holding hands with a man outside a boutique hotel. Him, tall, graying at the temples. Expensive suit. Not some random fling. This was planned. Thought out. Name's Sebastian, Bowen said. Consultant. Divorced. Wealthy. This has been going on for a while. I couldn't breathe. When I confronted her, I didn't yell. I didn't break things. I just asked. How long? She didn't even lie. A year. That was it. A year. Like it was nothing. Like those 365 days weren't a slow, methodical execution of a marriage. You don't get to be the victim, she said. You were always working. Always distracted. You stopped seeing me. So you replaced me? She didn't answer. The weeks after that were a blur. Mediation. Court dates. Assets listed like inventory. Our life is reduced to spreadsheets and witness statements. And still, part of me kept asking, was I really that blind? Maybe I was. Maybe I wanted to believe so badly that love lasted that I ignored the rot. But slowly, painfully, I started to let go. I sold the house. Couldn't bear to stay in it. Moved into a smaller place in Fremont. Close to the water. Quiet. I picked up woodworking again. Made a coffee table that wobbled at first, but got better with each hour I poured into it. Huck stayed with me. Loyal, stupid, perfect dog that he is. I started going on hikes. Alone at first, then with a group. Strangers who didn't know my past, didn't ask about it. Just wanted to climb mountains and breathe fresh air. And for the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. Not joy. Not yet. But peace. The peace didn't come all at once. It came in fragments, like puzzle pieces I wasn't even aware I was picking up. It was in the silence of early mornings, the way the light came in through the apartment window, hitting the kitchen counter, just so. It was in Huck's tail wagging when I got home. No questions, no judgment. It was in the smell of cedar and sawdust clinging to my skin after hours of shaping a rough block of wood into something useful. There were setbacks too. Nights when I'd roll over and reach for the side of the bed that wasn't hers anymore. Random songs on the radio that opened up a flood of memories. I didn't ask for her singing in the kitchen, barefoot and dancing with a wooden spoon. The way she used to fall asleep with her hand on my chest. The scent of the lavender lotion she always kept on her nightstand. And then there were the court days. I hated those the most. Sitting across from her in a sterile room, both of us dressed like strangers at a funeral. Our lawyers spoke on our behalf, as if our mouths didn't work anymore. As if all those years together didn't qualify us to talk directly to one another. Trina didn't flinch. Not when the financials were brought up. Not when her infidelity was laid bare. She sat there with the same neutral expression she wore at board meetings, one hand resting on a legal pad, the other wrapped loosely around a paper cup of tea she never drank. I wondered if she felt anything at all. But that wasn't my problem anymore. Still, it hurt. There's a kind of grief that doesn't look like grief. It doesn't come with tears or dramatic breakdowns. It just shows up in the little things. The second plate you automatically grab from the cabinet, then put back. The instinct to share a joke, then remembering the person you used to share it with, chose to stop being a part of your life. I had to keep reminding myself, this wasn't about her anymore. This was about me, rebuilding something from the ashes she left behind. The thing is, I didn't want revenge. Not really. I didn't want to make her regret it, despite what Arlo had said. What I wanted was justice. Closure. Maybe even a little dignity. But justice doesn't always come gift-wrapped. Sometimes it comes in sideways ways, little moments that chip away at the hurt until something else, something less angry takes its place. Like the day Mara called with news. She's trying to delay the house sale. I rubbed my forehead. Why? She claims she needs more time to find alternative housing. But we both know she's living with Sebastian. I sighed. So what do? We file a motion. And we add the photographs Bowen provided. She can't claim hardship while living in a luxury condo with a man who owns 3 properties. It was petty. Maybe. But it was also fair. She made her choices. I was just trying to make mine count for something. Eventually, the judge ruled in our favor. The house went on the market. It sold in less than 2 weeks. Hot neighborhood. Good bones. All the upgrades I'd poured into it with my own 2 hands. I didn't feel triumphant. Just empty. And then, strangely, lighter. I took my half of the money and put it into a small workshop space in Greenwood. Nothing fancy, concrete floors, drafty windows, that weird industrial smell that always clings to old buildings, but it was mine. I set up a few tools, a bench, some shelves, and started making furniture. Nothing big. Just stools, side tables, picture frames. At first it was just for me. Therapy through craft. But then a neighbor asked if I'd sell them a piece. Then another. Then someone asked if I did commissions. Before I knew it, I had a waiting list. It felt good. Real. Honest work. That's when the email came. From Sebastian. Yes, that's Sebastian. Short. Polite. Weirdly formal. Callum, I realize this message may not be welcome, but I wanted to reach out. I believe there's still a great deal of hostility between you and Trina, and I'd like to see if there's a way we can lessen that tension. For everyone's sake. Especially hers. I stared at the screen for a long time, trying to decide if it was bait, manipulation, or genuine naivete. I didn't respond. What would I even say? You don't get to play mediator after you helped blow up someone's marriage. You don't get to swoop in and pretend to be the voice of reason when you were the wrecking ball. But that was the thing, wasn't it? People always want a clean ending. A nice bow. An apology that makes it all okay. But life doesn't work like that. And not everything broken needs fixing. A few weeks later, I ran into Trina at Green Lake. Totally by accident. She was walking alone, headphones in. I had Huck with me. He froze the second he saw her, tail wagging like crazy. He never understood the concept of betrayal. She took out her headphones and smiled, hesitant. Hi. Hey. We stood there, awkward. Two people who used to be everything and now weren't even sure if they were supposed to hug or just nod. You look good, she said. So do you. Silence stretched between us. She looked at Huck. He seems happy. He is. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something else. Closed it again. And then, quietly, I'm sorry. I didn't know what to do with that. So I just said, I know. And then I walked away. Not out of anger. Not because I wanted the last word. Because I didn't need anything else from her. And that realization, as quiet and unremarkable as it seemed in that moment, was one of the most powerful things I'd ever felt. Life didn't suddenly fall into place after that. I didn't walk away from Trina in the park and immediately feel whole. That's the kind of thing people write in books, where the timing is perfect and the healing is neat. But real life is messy. It doesn't tie itself up with a bow. That moment with her short, strange, almost anticlimactic wasn't a breakthrough. It was a checkpoint. After that day, I found myself thinking about our past in a different way. Not with anger, not even with pain, just curiosity. Like I was sifting through old photographs from a life I no longer lived. Some memories still hit hard. Others felt like they belonged to someone else entirely. There were versions of us I barely recognized. I threw myself deeper into the workshop. I started waking up early, before the sun, and driving across town just to unlock the doors, put on a record, and let the smell of wood stain and sawdust fill my lungs. The space became a sanctuary, somewhere I could sweat out the hurt and build something beautiful with my own hands. Something no one could take away. I began taking on bigger commissions. A custom bookshelf for a bookstore in West Seattle. A bench for a school courtyard. Slowly, the money started to match the effort. But more importantly, the sense of purpose did. And then something unexpected happened. Mara, my lawyer, called one afternoon in early March. There's something you should see, she said. I drove to her office, expecting more post-divorce paperwork. Instead, she slid an envelope across the desk. It was a copy of a contract. A lease agreement. Trina's signature was there, right under Sebastian's. A condo in Bellevue. High-rise. Expensive. But that wasn't what caught my attention. It was the date. They had signed the lease 8 months before she filed for divorce. Even Mara hesitated. I thought you should know. She wasn't just planning to leave. She'd already left. Emotionally, financially, maybe even physically. That gut punch I thought I was done feeling? It came roaring back. 8 months. That was before she told me she was feeling distant. Before she started taking work trips that left no trace on her company's calendar. Before she changed the passwords. Before she began sleeping with her back turned, saying she was just tired. I went home that night and sat in silence. No music. No TV. Just Huck, curled up at my feet, breathing soft and steady. I thought about all the moments I tried to save our marriage while she was laying bricks on the path out of it. It felt humiliating, but it also felt clarifying. Because it wasn't me. I hadn't imagined it. I hadn't missed my chance to fix things. She just didn't want to fix them. She wanted out. And she didn't have the courage to say it until the plan was already complete. In the following weeks, I started writing everything down. Not to publish, not to share, just to understand. I filled notebook after notebook with pieces of our life, trying to make sense of the patterns, the turning points. I realized I had ignored a lot. Not because I was stupid, but because I was committed. Because I loved her more than I loved the idea of being right. That's not a flaw. That's love. One rainy Thursday morning, I drove by the old house. It was staged for the next family, the lawn perfectly trimmed, a wreath on the door that didn't belong to us. There were children's bicycles in the yard, a bright blue kiddie pool by the fence. It was someone else's life now, and it hit me that I didn't miss the house. I missed who I used to be in it. I missed the belief I had in us. The certainty, the faith. But certainty, I've learned, is a delicate thing. It's easy to lose and hard to earn back. Still, I was trying. I'd started seeing someone. I didn't plan it. Didn't even think I was ready. Her name was Isla. She came into the shop looking for a table, asked a million questions, laughed at my dumb jokes, called me out when I was being too serious. There was no pretense, no games. She was kind in a way that didn't feel rehearsed. We met for coffee, then for dinner, then a walk by the marina where neither of us wanted to say goodbye. I didn't tell her everything at first. I didn't want her to meet the version of me that was still bleeding. But she was patient. And one night, as we sat on the floor of her living room with records playing low in the background, I told her about Trina. She didn't flinch. She just listened. And when I finished, she said, "You didn't lose her. She was already gone." Simple. But it's true. The past still knocks on my door now and then. Usually in the form of old friends reaching out awkwardly, unsure of who to side with. Sometimes through updates from Mara about final legal loose ends. Sometimes just in dreams that left me waking up with a hollow chest. But less and less often. And each time, it was easier to shake it off. What surprised me most was how much I didn't hate Trina anymore. Don't get me wrong, there was still anger, still sadness. But hate? That takes too much energy. And she didn't deserve that power. In a way, she gave me something I wouldn't have found otherwise. The shop. My own peace. A clearer sense of who I was and what I wanted. She thought she was taking everything when she tried to rewrite our life. When she tried to erase me from the house, from the accounts, from the narrative. But she didn't. She gave me the chance to start again. I never set out to get revenge. But sometimes, karma just needs a little push. A few months after Isla and I had started quietly seeing each other, my woodworking business began to pick up even more steam. Not just small commissions, larger, more permanent work. Restaurants looking for original bar tops. Local art galleries needing installation pieces. Even a hotel in Belltown that wanted to furnish its entire lobby with custom woodwork. It was a contract that could change everything for my shop. Steady income for months. And the best part? The architect they'd hired for the design was someone I used to work with, Elodie, a friend who'd always believed in my work, even when others had brushed me off. We met at the site, went over design specs, and looked through my sketches. And then she said something I didn't expect. "You know who pitched your name to the hotel's owner?" I shook my head. "Sebastian. Said he's seen your work online and that you're some kind of underrated genius. Apparently, he's an investor." I almost choked on my coffee. Sebastian, my ex-wife's silver-haired prince, is charming. The man who signed a lease with Trina while she was still living in my house and wearing my ring. He wanted to work with me. He didn't even know the business he was backing was mine. That the artist he so proudly name-dropped at cocktail parties and strategy meetings was the same guy he helped gut in a divorce proceeding. Elodie noticed my silence. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said slowly. "I'm just surprised." "Well, don't be. Word's getting around. People are talking about your work." The hotel project went forward. I kept it professional. Delivered everything early. They loved it. I never met Sebastian in person during the install, but I knew he'd see my name on the blueprints, on the invoices, on the plaques mounted next to each piece. I made sure of it. Then came the ribbon-cutting ceremony. I wasn't planning to attend. Crowds aren't my thing. But Elodie convinced me. "Come on," she said. "You deserve to see what you built." So I went. And sure enough, there they were, Sebastian and Trina, dressed to the nines, laughing, swirling glasses of wine, mingling with hotel executives like they'd just stepped off the cover of a lifestyle magazine. She didn't see me at first, but when she did, her smile faltered. I was standing next to the largest piece in the lobby, an intricate, layered wood panel behind the reception desk, custom-built to represent a horizon line in motion. It was bold, abstract, powerful, my favorite thing I'd ever made. And at the bottom corner, a brushed steel nameplate, handcrafted by Callum Barrett. She froze. Sebastian followed her gaze, saw me, and his eyebrows shot up in recognition. You could see the gears turning. The realization washed over him in real time. I smiled. Not smug, just calm, present, grounded. He walked over a few minutes later, leaving Trina in the crowd. "Callum," he said, extending a hand. I had no idea I shook it. Firm, but brief. "It's a good piece," he said, nodding toward the panel. "Thanks. It means a lot, especially knowing you're one of the investors." There was a flicker of discomfort in his eyes. He tried to play it cool. "You've built something impressive." "I know," I said. He didn't say much else. I didn't need him to. He walked away eventually, back to the woman he thought he'd won. And I let him go, without another glance. That was the moment I realized I'd already won. They had each other, but I had my name, my work, my life. And people respected me for it. Later that night, Isla joined me by the panel. She traced the edge of the wood with her fingertips, then smiled up at me. "You did all this with your hands." I nodded. "And with my scars." She leaned her head against my shoulder. "Are you ready to go?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, and took one last look at the room filled with my work. "Let's go home." That night, I slept without dreams. The kind of sleep you get when you've finally, completely let go. Of bitterness. Of regret. Of needing someone else to lose in order for you to win. Because real revenge, the kind that matters, is living well enough that they wish they hadn't let you go. And knowing, deep down, that they can't take credit for a single piece of the man you've become.